Welcome to Movie Reviews with Original Songs, aka MRwOS. I am your host, David Coyle, and I'm going to review a movie that I saw recently and then pair it with one of my original songs that I think has similar themes. So before we get started, just want to encourage you to like, follow, and share this program with your friends. Or if you want to contribute, go subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/David Coyle. So, the movie that I saw this week was Late Night with the Devil. And this is directed by Colin and Cameron Cairns. They're two brothers that are Australian, and they specialize in horror films. Now, even though this is a Australian film, the characters are very much American. The film stars David Dastmalchian, who I know from Ant-Man and Suicide Squad, and he's a very striking-looking character, and I wouldn't have thought of him as a talk show host, and that's what he plays. He plays a talk show host named Jack Delroy, who's a rival to Johnny Carson in the 70s. And it's actually inspired by a real-life Australian television personality, Don Lane. But they decided to make this character, Jack Delroy, American. So, and David Dastmalchian does a great job in this role. I have to say that. But the basic premise is that in an effort to win his time slot during sweeps week, he decides to have on a psychic medium, also a girl who is purportedly possessed by a demon, and also a skeptical debunker, and kind of pit them against each other. And it also is set on Halloween. This is a low budget film, an indie film, but it doesn't suffer for it. It is amazingly cinematic, considering that the vast majority of it takes place in one location. It starts off with a documentary set about the main character. So they do this little documentary footage, edited like a documentary. And then the idea is that we're watching the recently undiscovered last videotape of the last show that this guy did. And so we actually watch the show in real time, and they do a good job of capturing that period feel of a talk show at the time. And during the commercials, instead of going to commercial breaks, what they do is they give us kind of a behind the scene footage, backstage footage of what's going on. And they do a masterful job of inserting the documentary footage, mixing that in with the live show footage and the behind the scenes kind of documentary style footage. It's really, they experiment with color palettes. So you have, some really colorful 70s inspired designs. And then you have the black and white footage that sort of depicts, behind the scenes stuff. And I think they do a really great job of taking advantage of the full palette available to filmmakers and making it really interesting. So even though it's taking place mostly on this stage, the sound stage, it's visually very interesting. I don't think you'll ever get bored from a cinematographic point of view. I got to say that I have not always been a fan of horror, and I think part of that is because I grew up in the slasher period, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, that sort of thing. And but I've kind of fallen in love with horror a lot more as I've gotten older, once I kind of found more psychological strains of horror. And I feel like this is a more psychological strain of horror. I don't know that it quite veers over into horror comedy, because there's definitely a light-hearted part to it, because it's about a talk show that is a comedy, like Johnny Carson, it had comedy mixed in and everything. There's a slow creeping dread. It's not just, scary stuff, not a bunch of jump scares or anything like that. There is a little bit of gore, but nothing too substantial in it. And I would say that it's, if you can remember like the original Poltergeist film, I'd say it's on that level of gore. It's not too horrible if you're worried about that sort of thing. But I thought it was the creeping dread of the whole thing. I think is really, really well done, and it's really kind of like an extended Twilight Zone episode in my mind. It really felt that good. So, yeah, and I think one of the reasons I really liked it is because I've worked on some low budget films, and I know what goes into them, and being able to see something like this where they took all the limitations that they had and they did everything they could with it. So I guess I'd first off say, if you're somebody who's an aspiring filmmaker, I would highly recommend checking out this film just to see what you can do and make something look really good with a low budget. But I would say, if you enjoy period pieces and genre pastiches, this is a really good film there. I really want to recommend it to folks who like, I don't know if you remember the old HBO show, The Larry Sanders Show, starring Gary Shandling, which was all about, a talk show host who was also a rival to, Johnny Carson or whoever, Jay Leno maybe at the time. But it has behind the scenes stuff. And I feel like this movie is very similar to that in a lot of ways. It's not quite as comedic, but it has a lot in common with that. And I think if you enjoyed that TV show, you would, and if you can enjoy a little bit of horror, then I think you would really like this show. So anyway, I'm going to say I really love this movie. I would highly recommend it. So, all right, the song I picked is from 2021. It's called "Be Remembered." And this is one of the first songs I wrote after the pandemic started. I do most of my writing in January, so this was January 2021. And, when you're trying to make a career out of being a creative artist, you have big questions, kind of like this Jack Delroy, character was dealing with. It's sort of like, what am I willing to sacrifice to gain some notoriety, to pick up fans, to become famous, And yeah, sometimes it does feel like you're selling your soul, right? Or that you feel like those are the choices, that you have to sacrifice your soul in some ways to do stuff. So finding a way to be comfortable about it is interesting and can be difficult sometimes. But anyway, this song takes it more literally, and yeah. Let's get going. This is "Be Remembered" by yours truly. I was working in the theater, in the dark behind the stage, but I long to be a player, to feel the spotlight graze my brow, to be the toast of the here and now, to be remembered, to be remembered. Oh, please remember my name. Then it came to me in shadows, said it knew my family, and how hard they were to follow, but he could bring me great acclaim if I would only sign his claim. I'd be remembered, I'd be remembered. Oh, please remember my name. Every now and then I feel humble, every now and then I feel sad, every now and then I feel lonesome and dream of love I never had. in the space behind the stage. He had a contract set to sign here at the bottom of the page. And I took his inky feather and I held above the line. And then I thought about forever, and then I said that I decline. I'd rather keep this soul of mine. And then his eyes burst with flame. He said I'd never feel the touch of fame. No, I won't be remembered. I won't be remembered. I won't be remembered. Never be remembered. Won't someone please remember my name? All right, that's it for this episode of Mr. Woz. I'll be back next time I see a movie. Happy movie going, folks. Bye.